What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and on this episode of the podcast, we're going to look at picking an activity that suits you. All right, and I want to do this one because when I'm talking to people who are in the back pain group, and when I'm talking to clients that I'm working with, a lot of them say that they struggle to find something that they're able to keep up, that's sustainable, that they enjoy, and that they get a benefit out of. So in this podcast, I want to talk a small bit around about, like, is there certain activities that suit you based off of your lifestyle, what you enjoy? And if so, can we start to include those? And I'll also talk about why it's important to have them. And do you have to be competitive versus not being competitive? We will look at all aspects of it, because there's more to an activity than just going and doing it. And the idea of having something that can keep you healthy, keep you physically active, and keep you fit, and being able to enjoy that and also get more out of it from a cognitive, spiritual, and emotional side, that's the all-in-one package, really. Okay, so I guess the first thing is, why do I feel having an activity is going to be important? And what do we mean by activities? Well, activity can be anything that you do, whether that's in a community or it's by yourself. It doesn't always have to be fitness related, but oftentimes having something that keeps you physically active and getting you outside of the house is nicer, and it's better for your mental health and your physical health. So as I said, it's going to keep you physically active, it's going to promote health and fitness, it's going to boost confidence through the challenges, and then obviously with challenge there's a process of improvement that you need to a path that you need to go down to improve on anything and develop yourself on anything. And then on top of that, it cultivates a disciplined mindset, whether it's competitive or it's self-driven. And lastly, then, it's having an activity that's fun and enjoyable. It makes it so much more sustainable in the long run, where you can create memories and create experiences and have times that you can look back on in your life and really, really be happy that you have achieved something, or that you were able to stick to something even when times were tough. Okay? So the first one is, do you have to be a competitive athlete when we're looking at a fitness-based or an active activity? First, I don't think so. Not at all. It's more about working on yourself when you're using an activity. And I think sometimes when people look at that, they look at runs, or they look at, let's say, some type of sport that they want to get involved with, and they always look at the competitive side and say, well, I don't know if that'll suit me, the competitive aspect of it. And I want to reframe why we look at competitive athletes, or the way we look at it, and why some people may look at it as intimidating in lots of ways, okay? Because if we want to change our perspective from just getting involved in an activity because it's competitive, as opposed to getting involved in an activity because we get something out of it. And you can be competitive with yourself. Some people enjoy competition, others don't. But everyone likes improvement, and everyone likes to see progress. And in some situations, you may have to challenge your skills. And if that's in a 1v1, or if it's in a team situation where you get to test out your skills and you get to see, okay, have I improved since the last couple of training sessions? It's a nice marker of progress, I guess. Now, the same can go for a run, where you're going for a longer distance and you can see that your times are improving, that your distance is improving, that your body's recovering faster, that you're not having any issues. So you don't specifically have to be competitive with other people. You can just be competitive with yourself, and you just to make sure that you are, I guess, moving down the right path, and moving on the path to improvement, okay? The activity is a good way of measuring that. In the back pain back to exercise group, we use running as a way to measure it, where people can build up the running. They say they get to 2K, 3K, then people start getting to 4K. And when you get to 5K, you have enough done to realize that the process of improvement involves obstacles. It's going to involve you changing things slightly. And you also get the sense of achievement when you get there. So we want to have something that we can build on. And that's a huge part of the back pain back to exercise group, is that we're building on things that we've done in the past. And that in turn will build confidence, and in turn it will improve the body's overall strength, its durability. It's going to make your body a lot more resilient. And as a result, then the pain starts to decrease, because it doesn't need to be as protective. The body doesn't need to be as protective of itself. And it'll start to decrease. You'll notice that your fitness increases massively. And then after a certain point, you realize that you haven't had a back issue in 8 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years in a lot of cases. And that's because you've built it up over time and you've stayed focused on an activity or on something that works for you. Okay? So using something that is measurable is a really effective method. And if you want to be competitive because it's something you enjoy, don't shy away from that. If you're a competitive person, which a lot of us are, especially people who are probably listening to this podcast because it's something that I've talked about a lot in the past. This is for the other ones who want to do something and want to be competitive, this little block here. So it is sometimes seen as a bad thing, I think, because especially as we get older, people start to associate it as more of a toxic trait where someone's over competitive. Now that is an issue when you're too competitive and you let it control you completely, but only if you let it be that way. If you're letting it control your reactions, if you start to become a sore loser, if you start losing with humility, it can be a really, really good thing. It can be a great thing for your ego as well, to be able to lose and to be able to acknowledge that you weren't in the best, you didn't perform to your best at that time, or the person that you were against, or the trial that you were doing was a bigger task than you had expected, and just having humility and accepting that and saying, okay, well, I'm going to improve on that going forward. That can be a really, really impactful thing in your life, because you can approach other things the same way. It doesn't mean that you need to get everything right the first time, and that's why losing with humility of stepping back and saying, okay, I can improve on this, I see that there was things that were there, I can improve on that, and you look to build. That's a huge thing. Now the same goes for winning with humility as well, where you don't want to be completely, like, especially if you're against friends or if you're against family, where you let your emotions take over, where it starts to become a bigger thing of I'm better than you. It's not. It's when you're winning, you have to win with humility also. See what worked for you, why it worked, and see if there was an element of, was it effort that got you over the line? Was it tactics? Was it skill? Was it strategy? No matter what you're working on, it doesn't have to be 1v1 competitive fight or anything like that. It can be literally anything. But being able to look at it and say, what worked for me there, what didn't work so well, and what can I improve on, which is something that I use with my clients, and I use in group settings as well, where we try to get people to look at what's working for them, what isn't working, and then what can they improve on. And it just continually put you on the path to more progression, to improvement, and gets you down the line towards your goals. So that's the first thing. Then if you want to be competitive with yourself or others, do it. I'm not talking about winning world championships or anything. I'm just talking about measured, controlled competition in certain events and places, and knowing when it's important to be competitive, and then knowing when it's actually important to take the foot off the gas and being able to relax and enjoy yourself. So it's being able to play between the two is so important. I think that people sometimes get stuck in one, and that's obviously going to affect you. So being competitive with yourself is just as valuable as competing with others. But then healthy competition is actually going to foster growth. It's going to foster progress, and it's going to foster a lot of confidence in yourself as well, where you start to believe in yourself that bit more. You start to have a bit more confidence that you can achieve if you put time into things, okay? And when you're looking at a recurring injury or a recurring issue, the confidence has been knocked massively, and the fear has increased, because we continually try things out, or we think that we're going right, and then we get knocked back because the issue kicks up again. So you can see then over time how that would build. And if you employ the opposite strategy, where you're working on things, you're progressing, you're trying to improve on things overall, you're disciplined and you're staying on the path, then you can see how that will build your confidence in your body, and it will remove the fear of issues starting to kick up again. Okay, so it takes time, but you can use an activity to really push you down the line for that. Now, I guess when we're looking at activities, you have to look at, how do you know something is going to suit you? Because oftentimes you try something and then you say, well, no, that wasn't it, and that didn't work for me, and we stop. Well, doing a little bit of research into what your values are, what you enjoy, maybe something a little bit outside of your comfort zone can be a nice tester for the first while. What I say to people is, use the 5 times trial method, where you have to go to at least 5 sessions before you can judge it, or before you can determine whether you like it or not. Okay, and this goes back to the trial and error side of things, where you are always looking on, you don't need to commit to something 100% at the start. You just need to make sure that you're going down the line along the way, working on it, seeing if you like it, and then if there's things that you can change about it, that okay, I'll get rid of this. It's that method of Kaizen. It's also a philosophy that we employ in the Back Pain Back to Exercise group, the idea of Kaizen, where you try something out, you keep trying. If it works, then you implement it. If you find it doesn't work, you try to change it a little bit, and you're just trying to basically, if for the things that don't work, you get rid of them. The things that do work, you double down on them. Okay. But in this situation, it works really well because you go in with the mindset of not judging it. So the first time you try something or get back into it, you know it's going to be a lot more difficult than it will be the fifth time. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket and say, I didn't like that or I did like that based off the first session, okay? Because we don't really know if we like something until you have a bit of a basic understanding of the rules and how it works and the positions and everything to do with it. And you'll hear me talking about this in a minute. I'm going to talk about jiu-jitsu a little bit because my experience with it at the start and how in time then it really grew on me and I started to love it. So don't completely make your mind up until you've tried it out enough times. And it gives you the opportunity to really be bad at something at the start. So you're allowed to be really bored. You can put the ego aside. You don't need to let the ego take over. And the people who have been good at other sports in the past probably struggle with this the most, where they get into a new sport and they're at the bottom of the barrel. Again, they're the white belt and they have to start out from the bottom and build their way up. See, that's when the ego takes over and will get us to stop doing things and get us to make phrases like, I don't want to embarrass myself, I'll never be good at this, that person is good at this because this and that and the other. Like it makes you give yourself excuses for not being good at something when going into this thing, because we haven't tried it out in the first place. We know we're not going to be good at it anyway. So when we can put that aside and we realize that in this case the ego actually is the enemy, we want to get into a new activity, it's going to stop us getting into new activities. It's going to be the voice in your head that says, well, I tried that dance class, and then you say, actually no, I won't, just I might put it off a week or 2 weeks. And you continually put these things off because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your ego, because at the start you may feel like you're going to be a lot worse at it. And when you go into the mindset of, I'm going to be shy at this at the start and I'm going to build it up, it changes it, it reframes it, and it allows you to let yourself go a small bit more and let yourself off the hook for not being as good when you go into it. So make sure to at least get 5 sessions in before you make that decision. Then if you really want to change, 100%. Don't let the ego control your decisions. Push through that initial kickback and that initial challenge that it gives you when you say that I would like to do that, and explore a variety of options. It can be from running to group classes to outdoor activities like hiking, anything. So I want to talk to a couple of options, and for people who don't know where to start or don't know what they want to do. So when we look at it, there's so many activities that you can do, and it's probably best to chat to your friends and see what they're doing at the moment and seeing if that's something that you would enjoy, because if you go with a partner, it can be a lot easier to get into something. But if you want to start something by yourself, then you can look at something like a running plan, where you're doing a couch to 5k. In the Back Pain Back to Exercise group, that's what we do. We start at 0 and we go to 5k within 10 weeks. And we have to build it up over time to get a more consistent, healthy, active routine. And we work along that path because we know that people are going to have flare-ups, and we can use the 5k as a measurement tool all the way along that. And we can see then, do we need to change anything or do we need to improve on it? So that's a really good one. Now, what I try to get people to transition to afterwards is either joining a running club or getting into a park run, where you know every Saturday you're going down and you're going to be running with a certain group of people, because that builds community, it builds consistency, the motivation is there to go down and meet people, and you can measure your times each week to see if you're improving or not, which isn't the most important thing, but it does help because they do it for you. In a lot of cases, you just put a tracker on, you run around and they check it for you. So that's the first one. The next one that's becoming so big now, this isn't going to get you fit or get you a 6-pack or anything, but cold water dips, where a group of people will go down to, and you can look these up, go down to a lake or go down to the seaside, and they will all go in together and they'll go in as a community, nice and cold, come out, drink a couple of cups of coffee or tea after, and they go about their business. Now, you'll see this often if you're looking for where people do this. You can search or research saunas or wild saunas in Ireland, because they're, a lot of times you'll notice that a lot of the saunas are going to be beside the sea, and generally a group will congregate at a certain time to do that, where they go in, they go for a dip, and they come back in and use the sauna. So anyone who hasn't, I would definitely recommend you try that, because it can be a huge one. So wild saunas in Ireland, it would be a handy one to start to look up. I know there's some in Lahinch, there's some in Galway, there's some in, where else is there? There's in Limerick, there's a good few in Cork, Mayo, Sligo. Yeah, there's enough of them. If you just search it, you'll find one that's close to you, and I'm sure there's more inland as well. So where to try, if you are looking to mix two things together, you get the community, or you can go by yourself. And as I was saying, the cold water dips, you get a nice shock out of it. Really, really good for the mental health as well as your physical health, and you're going to feel so much better. After that then, I think small group training classes can be really effective, where you have a nice community of people that you can go in, you can train with them, you can see how the class works, whether it's a high intensity class, a strength and conditioning class, or if it's just a normal gym session, or if it's a CrossFit class, high rocks, whatever it is. You have a nice community, you have the work is already set out, you go in, you get through your session, you do it all together, and then you pop out. People also do it with Pilates or body pumps. These are really good ways of activities that, especially if you're someone who's like, I only have an hour to get out and come back, these ones can work really, really well for you. So I would try that. You just pop in, see how you get on, and you can try. Generally, they have a couple of trial classes as well. So that's another one. Dancing is a huge one that I think a lot of people don't. A lot of people in Ireland, anyway, especially a lot of the ladies that I've worked with, would be inclined to do this, but they just haven't looked up a specific one, or they might look at one and say, okay, well, I want to do dancing, but the one I've done in the past is Irish dancing or step dancing, and they want to change it. So just find one that suits you, and have a look in your local area. Five-a-side soccer, this may sway more towards the guys who want to play AstroTurf, but ladies also, and generally local GAA teams will do it. They'll have a team over the winter that will play, or if you look up your local AstroTurf, you'll find people who will play on it. Swimming, as I said, sauna, and then the last one is paddle tennis. Paddle tennis is really enjoyable if you can get 2 to 4 people. It's definitely better when you have 4, but if you can go 2 versus 2, it's a huge one. It's high intensity, it's a small court size, you can play it at any age, and it's so enjoyable. It's so much fun, because you're in a cage and you're basically, it's tennis that you hit. It's tennis and squash mixed together, for lack of a better phrase. It's one of the fastest growing sports in the world right now, is paddle tennis, because of how engaging it is and how much fun it is if you can find a nice group of people to play it with. So that's another one to work at. And then the last one is hiking. Like, looking at different hikes, planning out your hikes. You can do, the good thing about this is they're always going to be the same. You can plan them out at different times of the year, so you can build up. Like, I know with Brian Keane at the moment is doing one in Kilimanjaro at the end of the year. If anyone is interested in that, definitely check it out. But if you look at how you can build up to certain hikes, you can set it like, okay, I'm going to do Crowpatrick, and then I'm going to do Carntoohill, and I'm going to do Snowdon then in England after. You can judge the difficulty, and you can practice using different hikes. So that's a nice one. That's probably mountaineering more so than hikes. I don't know how you would define the difference, but they're really good. You can do them by yourself. You get that sense of accomplishment after. There's varying levels of difficulty. You're out in nature. It's enjoyable. Generally, there's a lovely view at the end. You can relax at the top, and the way back down is always so much easier than the way up. So there's a lot to hiking, and it's very measurable. So it could be something that you need to try out. After that then, I guess the main things are consistency is key. Choose an activity you can stick with. Martial arts like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm going to talk about in a second, offer more holistic approach, and you look at the discipline, physicality and stress relief, and then the thing is that you need to kind of tailor your choice based off of your own personal preferences, what your goals are, what your long-term goals are, and then something that you're able to commit to long-term as well. All right, so what do I suggest for people? Now, I mentioned a lot of things above, but when I look at what I suggest for people to try out is based off my own experience of what I have done and what I've with clients that I've worked with who have integrated into it. Any activity you can be consistent with is the most important. Me, myself, I love martial arts. I think so much can be gained from them. Not specifically the competition aspect where you're going in and you're fighting against someone 1v1. There's so much can be gained by that too, but you can get so much out of just training itself. The discipline, the physicality, the humility. My God, go into a session and train with people who are better than you, and you will be humbled very fast. Your confidence and your ego will get a nice check, which I think is so important, and it's so important for both males and females, especially people who are very confident in themselves and maybe a bit outspoken about their confidence, and who have never trained in a martial art or a conflict sport or combat sport, I should say, because you will realize then that if you come up against somebody who's actually trained in it, you're in a lot of trouble, and you're going to be a lot more humble in many other situations, because you won't try to, you're not going to be going out trying to pick fights with people or start arguments with people, because you know there's a possibility that someone who's trained can really do a lot more damage. And I think that's important for people to understand. Maybe young men more so, like teenagers. I think it's really, really important for them to know that, because with the way the internet is and the way people's egos are going at the moment, in a lot of cases, they sometimes having a sport that you can train in, that you can release that energy, so you don't have to be trying to do it out in the street, where you can release the energy, but you can also be humble to say that, okay, right, there is someone better than me at this, and I need to make sure that I'm smart about it anymore. So, and the reason I say that is because boxing was my sport growing up. It was a great way of offloading energy and stress, which I didn't realize at the time. I like the mastery side of it, where I'm trying to become the best. And even though I love boxing, it's not something I feel that suits everyone, male and female, because of the sparring element, really, where you're getting hit in the head. Not everyone wants to be getting punched. And you take a lot of hits to the head if you're sparring and boxing. But if you're just going and you're hitting the pads and hitting the bag, that's a perfect one for people as well. I know a lot of ladies who absolutely love Muay Thai. And Muay Thai suit, the kicks, the punches, everything, the elbows, the knees. It's a great self-defense mechanism, or way of training, method I should say. And it's really, really effective method of self-defense, but you also get a proper workout from doing it. And it's a really enjoyable atmosphere, Muay Thai. It's one of the most violent sports 1-to-1 in the world if you're fighting in it, but the most enjoyable atmosphere for the people who train it, because there's a real fun, loving atmosphere in most gyms. Now, if I had to pick myself, I would recommend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to people. It's something that I'm deeply involved in. I love it. I train most days, and I have been for the last couple of years. It has all of the elements of the above, the cognitive side, the physical and the spiritual side, but you don't get the shots to the head, which is really nice. You can spar or roll at the end of every class. It's based off submission fighting. So it's basically you're rolling around, you get into a certain submission, and you try to hold them, and then they either tap out or you go and you keep going. It's physical chess is the way people describe it. And what it does is it tests your ability. You're going to consistently get humbled. You think you're going to be doing really well, then you're going to meet someone who's like a higher belt, and they're just going to play with you like a child, and you have to start and go again. Okay, so one combat sport in the world where size doesn't matter. It's not supposed to matter. Recently, a guy, Demetrius Johnson, he's a brown belt, and he was at the Pan American Championships, I think. And weight-wise, he's 52 kilo. He beat a guy who was 97 kilo in the semi-final. So it just shows, and it was based off of leverage, skill, and being able to adapt. So it's the sport itself is based off technique. It's really good for either yourself or your children. And it's when the UFC started, it was the most effective fighting method because people didn't understand it. And you can stop issues happening. It's a self-defense method. You can stop issues happening before they become a problem. And it's not like boxing or Muay Thai where you have to hit someone and knock them out. You can just control someone, relax, and wait for the authorities to come if that was an issue that you were dealing with. So it is something that's a really, really good one. And I think that a lot of people should maybe look into it. It's something that you have to. There's no point going to one session and seeing if you enjoy it. You have to do 5 sessions at least, because it's like learning a new language. It's going to be completely different. And there's people of all ages and all ages and all backgrounds doing it. It's not like not like a tough man sport or anything like that. It's you have everyone from every side of I guess the population getting involved in it. Now we can all work. The thing about it as well is it has a graded system, so you go from white to blue to purple to brown to black, and it takes about 10 to 12 years to get a black belt at it. So it's something that you can work on for a long time. And I think the idea of mastery is something I often think about. It's something that I enjoy, trying to become a master or something, because of the time involvement and the element of focus and purpose when you are working on something that you're trying to improve on. And really, when it comes down to activities, for me, that's the way I look at them, is can I use this for a purpose? Do I enjoy doing it? Does it keep me focused? And is it a skill that I can adapt and improve on over time? So that's why I have been living in Brazil the last while, or in Argentina before that, partly because I wanted to come South America and check it out. The other part is because I wanted to learn the language. So my Spanish is relatively okay now. My Portuguese is a lot to be desired, but I can get by. So they're two things that I'm trying to hone in and improve on when I'm looking at activities. Otherwise, jiu-jitsu, boxing are my big ones. Obviously, health and fitness is something that I'm in all the time. Going to the gym and playing the guitar, different things like that. These are all little activities that I have myself in my own life that I rely on at different times to try work. And it also just stops me spending loads of time on social media as well, having these things. So I think if we can how I can spend the right amount of time on a specific subject to become proficient at it is a huge question for me. Like, how much time and energy do I have to engage in certain subjects or certain topics or certain tasks or certain activities before I can start to become proficient at it? And that's a really enjoyable process for me. I get a lot from that. And then I actually use the gym on the side to build on it. So I want to improve my jiu-jitsu, or if I want to improve my boxing, I will use the gym to keep me strong, keep me fit, avoid injuries, keep me healthy as another way outside of training to relax. And then my training in jiu-jitsu or in boxing is the main thing at the time. Okay, so it doesn't become an issue. It's not something that I think about, do I have to do it, or oh my god, I have to go to the gym tonight again. It's something that I do because I know it benefits everything else that I do. And maybe it's a bit of a change of mindset for people who aren't in this, who don't live this type of a lifestyle, or who are wanting to maybe get into this active type lifestyle. You find that one plays into the next. So I go to the gym because I know, first off, I'll feel better, I'll sleep better, I enjoy the gym, and then that's going to help me improve my jiu-jitsu. So it's not a bore, or it's not a task for me, something that I like to do. And that just comes from doing it for a long time and seeing the benefits. Because if you just do something once, you don't really get that perspective on it, do you? But anyway, to finish up, as I said, activity directs my training schedule. It helps me stay fit and healthy, and it keeps me and my mind sharp. So the last thing, the reflection on it, I guess, is that it all comes back to what you like and what you can do. If your goal is to be healthy and active as you age, being consistent with an active activity is a great way to do that, and align your activity with your goals, whether it's physical fitness, your mental well-being, or if you want to master a certain skill, and let your chosen activity guide your training schedule. So it'll be a more balanced lifestyle. So I'm going to be running, so I need to do a little bit of gym on the side to keep on top of that. Or I might do a bit of yoga on the side, or Pilates to improve it. Or I want to do jiu-jitsu, I'm going to do Pilates or yoga or whatever to improve my flexibility to help me in that sport as well. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. And the lifestyle then will add to that. Ultimately, I want you to prioritize enjoyment and sustainability, because it's all about being consistent and being able to maintain the active lifestyle as you age to continue to get the benefits from it. So that is all from me today. Hopefully now that was able to give you a different perspective on why you should maybe look at doing an activity, whether that be a sport or something else, how you can get involved, some of the obstacles that you're going to have to overcome at the start. Being the ego is a big one, and once you're aware that there's a possibility that that's going to step in the way, it makes it a lot easier to overcome it. Otherwise, the next group of the Back to Exercise group will be starting. There's no start date on it right now, to be determined. So you can check the link in the bio if that's something that you're interested in. We take on a small group of people and we go 10 weeks where we teach them about the issues that are contributing to their pain. You understand how to fix it, and then we start to implement that plan with the course on the side, with the exercises, with the running plan, and all the educational content to help you get back to a healthy, active lifestyle. We've had great results coming from it so far. So if you want to check that out, you can actually sign up in the link of the description, and you will get an email when the next one is starting. But that's all for me today. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love if you could go up to the very top and rate it on Spotify or iTunes. If you could give it a 5-star rating. I want to get it up to 1,000 ratings. It's something it's a goal of mine, because when I get it to that point, the guests that I'll be able to get on the podcast will be so much bigger, so much more exciting, and I'll be able to have hopefully even more enjoyable conversations with them, because obviously the ratings has a huge impact on that. But that's all for me today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will chat to you all again next week. Have a good one.